It's like gone now. The little live thing is pending live or whatever is gone now.
Okay, it says we're
So
live.
that
Try again.
does that mean that the link we shared is invalid now?
No, it should be the same link. Yeah, we're
Oh yeah,
live.
I think we're live. All right.
Technical
So at this point, I don't even
difficulties.
know when we started. So we'll just start over. I am so sorry, guys. So yes, welcome back to the channel, Lunch and Marinade. Today we are going to be talking about Euphoria season finale, not chapter two, season two, and we have a lot of thoughts. We have a lot of thoughts because this was a very heavy episode. But it does bear mentioning that this is a adult language episode. So if you're not okay with that, then don't watch the rest of this. And also, it is a spoiler discussion. So if you haven't watched the show, don't keep watching this video either. You can probably check out one of our other videos.
Right.
But yeah, Squeeze, what are you drinking tonight?
I am having a beer. I am having a Heineken.
We're like rushing through it because you've already said this a
Right.
couple times.
Pretty sure.
And I have already finished my drink. I finished it during the episode because
Lame.
very stressful episode.
Yeah, it was.
So you mentioned with the play, Lexi's play.
Mm-hmm.
What did you?
So we talked about it last time. I told you that I actually really liked it, but in the back of my head, I can't stop thinking about the budget. Like, what was the budget for
Right.
this play? This is great.
Right. I think I was going to mention that. Oh, we finally got the big throwdown with Maddie and Cassie and Lexi, and I have not laughed that hard in a hot minute. I was like literally busting my ass because it was insane. Like, and I know that it was intentionally funny. It had to be.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
it was.
Like,
It was really comic.
honestly,
Which
Maddie chasing Cassie around the stage
right,
was
and
great.
then afterward, when they go down the hallway, and then like the vaping girl. Yeah. That whole thing was
That
just
was great.
perfect.
That was great.
And what else happened during that play? I think Lexi had her breakdown. That was kind
So
of interesting to see.
before we get to the fight,
Mhm.
Cassie's dragon breath through the door kills me. Just kills me.
Yeah.
Um, I really
Right.
like that part. Then she goes in, or Maddie tries to beat the shit out of her. Um, yeah, Lexi has a breakdown. And I think it's. I mean, obviously, we know that Lexi isn't intentionally trying to get at her sister, but I think that she knows that it's a relevant piece of the play, so of course it's left in.
Of
Because I don't
course.
even
Yeah.
think Maddie's upset. Like Maddie's upset at Cassie. She's not upset at
Mhm.
Lexi, or because my first thought would be Maddie's upset at Lexi for putting this up on the spot, but I think she kind of sees it as she's siding with me because she's just putting her sister in the spotlight,
Right.
so
Like everyone's on blast
right,
basically.
right, right, right,
Yeah.
right,
And when Maddie got up and she was like, "This bitch needs to be put down," I was like, "Yeah."
right.
But yeah, so it was really interesting to see Lexi kind of like she finally got her shining moment, right? Like
Yep,
the whole school was rooting for her, cheering for
yep,
her with her play, and then it goes to absolute like downhill plane crash disaster.
yep.
And I felt bad for her, but I like the little redeeming factor thing that she was able to pull it all back together and kind of get back on her feet and get back on stage and finish the show.
Right.
Um, Mhm. And that's kind of when the whole show was also fooling around with the Fez
Mm-hmm.
storyline
That had
because
me
Fez
stressed
was
out.
absent. That was so people have complained that the show is really unrealistic, and I have to disagree. I mean, sure, it's like superimposed, right? Like it's way more dramatic than it would be. But
Sure.
there are plenty of juveniles that
Yep.
are in prison for many crazy shit,
Right.
and killing other people is one of those things.
Right.
So it's not unheard of for like someone like Ashtray to exist that he was like just a murderer, like murdering in cold blood left and right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think total throughout the show, he's killed three people now, right? He's killed the drug dealer in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
the one that tried to play them this episode, and then the federal agent, whoever it was, that
Yeah.
was trying to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that whole thing, it was really intense. I was not expecting that because it kind of felt like an action movie for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and we've been watching Euphoria for the past like however long it's been, and it wasn't expecting that whole.
I was actually pretty sad throughout the entire thing because I wanted Fez to get to see Lexi's play. and he dressed up, and he was so excited about being there for her. And I know that they've been talking every single day, and in this episode we get to hear some of their conversations. They talk about like TV
Mhm.
shows and like how he wants to live in the countryside, and how Lexi doesn't think that, doesn't even think that that's something that Fez would like to do. But I was actually really sad because I wanted him to actually make it to the play, and
Yeah.
seeing how things went down, it was just like, yeah.
Yeah. I was also going to mention. What was I going to mention? I forgot. Oh, so yeah, this whole episode was just really, really heavy. I felt
Yep.
Fez really struggling to keep his little brother. And that's a little unclear as well, if whether or not it was his brother. But in Fez's mind, it's his brother, his little brother. So trying to keep him
It's
from
not his
going to
brother.
jail. Huh?
It's not his brother.
I don't know, but he sees him as a brother.
Right, he sees him
It's
as a
just
brother, but
in
it's
his
not, because in the first episode, that's when they talk about Fez and his story
yeah.
and his grandma and all that. So, and then Ashtray comes into place. Like, I think he's given to her,
Right, so that's
and
what I'm
then
saying. It's a
exchange.
little
Right,
vague.
yeah,
Like
but
we
but
don't
it's
we don't
not.
know if he's like a half sibling or something. But I
Mm-hmm.
guess they don't look alike. But either way, yeah. So he was struggling to keep his little brother safe, and that was a big like drama as well. Like we don't know who's going to go to jail. Is it Fez or is it Ashtray?
Right.
And then the little bullet laser on Ashtray's forehead was pretty pretty
I mean,
sad.
it was really intense and sad at the same time, because Ashtray shoots Fez. That's the bullet
Hmm.
that hurts Fez and has him on the ground. And then the
Hmm.
final showdown between him, when as soon as like the guy comes in and he's like, oh, he's down, and he's just faking it and shoots the officer. It's like, then of course he's dead. Next thing you know.
Yeah, so something I really noticed that kind of hit me this episode, because the episode was so deep, and we're going to get a little more into the whole like actions have consequences thing, which I think I've been mentioning since the beginning. Like there has to be consequences for Ashtray, for everything that people are doing in the show.
Right.
I realized that from beginning to end, from episode 1 to episode 8. Episode 1, we started on like a high, right? Like the pacing was insane, like it was hectic, it was
Yeah.
crazy, it was beautiful. In the middle, it kind of got a little more like, oh my god, like what's going on? I don't know if there are going to be consequences or not. I'm running away from this. And at
Mm-hmm.
the end, it's very deep. It's kind of like, in my mind, it's kind of like the whole season was like a drug, like a high.
Right.
You start off euphoric, insane, then you're like not sure what's going on, and then you come down and reality hits, and whatever you might have done or not done, whatever you thought about, didn't think about, just kind of all hits you at
I
once.
mean, and if you think about it too, though, we're
You
still
catch
not
that?
done. We're
Hmm.
still not done with actions have consequences, because what's gonna happen to Rue? Rue lost all of that all of those drugs. Like, are they gonna let her go off like that? Just like,
I think they have. I mean, sure, there might be like some long-term consequences. I mean,
mm,
just in general, for example, like the ending of season 1 was really, really like, did Rue die or did she not die? It was beautiful. I love that ending, but it was very open-ended. I feel like there was some closure with it was a happy ending ultimately when Rue was able to just like walk away and kind of have a new lease on life in a sense because she was able to overcome her addictions for now. For now.
I don't know if I agree with that.
That's what I gathered, but I
Yeah.
mean, who knows?
I don't know. I think there's still gonna be. I mean, obviously, it's been renewed for season 3, and we're gonna be waiting for that.
Of course.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that something is gonna happen with Rue, and there's
Yeah,
gonna be a lot of things that go
there
down
has to.
next season that will have to do with
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
obviously.
yeah, yeah. But I guess I was expecting. I think I was telling you. I thought they would leave the cliffhanger of whether or not Fez dies.
Right.
So that wasn't a thing,
Right.
and so I was kind of expecting like a big, huge cliffhanger, and there really wasn't. I mean, in my
No,
mind, it was a happy. Yeah, it was a
a
happy
happy
ending
ending for
ultimately.
who? For Astrat? Come on.
No, no, for Rue. I mean, she's our main character we've been following for all this whole time.
Yeah, but I honestly feel like this season it wasn't really just entirely focused on Rue. It was more. I mean, when we were talking about season 1 last time, we talked about how it was all about Rue. Like Cassie and everyone else was just kind of off to the side. And now this season, it's like everyone is has taken the main stage, and they're all participating
Hmm.
equally, which I really like. But I mean, I don't know. I don't think I trust Rue. I don't think I I don't know if I believe it actually. I really hope
That she's
she's, yeah, that she's
well, she's
clean.
sober.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That so one thing I was gonna say. So when she goes to Elliot, and by the way, there's like a whole music video. Unlike the end of season one, it was like a really intense, crazy, amazing ending music video. This last episode also has a music video, but it's in the form of Elliot just playing this song that he literally plays it from beginning to end, and I was just like, okay, like when is this going to end? Because it's gone on for way too long. But we can see Rue's emotion. Clearly,
Yeah.
she was going through something in her head, and also it was interesting to see the dynamic of someone who is quote unquote recovered and struggling to remain sober. And then they kind of imply that she's going to enter a relationship with Elliot, or at least keep him around in her life.
But isn't Elliot
And
sleeping
he,
with Jules?
well, anyway, the point is that Elliot is a toxic person for Rue in the sense that he has access to drugs, he's
Yes.
still using them, and
Yes.
so that's kind of the debate.
I
It's
agree.
like someone who is trying to overcome that, and now she's letting someone in her life who will probably throw her back
Are
into the
you
pit.
gathering this because of what Ruth says to Jules in the auditorium after the play is done?
I actually honestly missed that bit. What did she say?
So Jules comes over and tells her that she's missed her and that she loves her.
Okay.
And Rue gives her a kiss on the forehead and then leaves. And then Rue goes on
Mm,
to say that Jules was her first love.
yeah, I remember that part. Oh, okay, okay,
So
okay.
are we gathering this because of that? Because honestly, that part left me a little
Yeah,
confused. Like, does that mean that you're no longer in love with Jules? Was
I
this
think
just a
so.
temporary moment? Because she talks about being high while she was in love with Jules.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
That's actually beautiful. So when I heard that it was her first love, from my personal beliefs,
okay.
I think your first love never works out. Like
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of there's a couple of people who I think that were like high school sweethearts, and they were 90 years old and they're still together. But for the
9 years
most
old.
part, 99% of people, no, they really were. But anyway, 99% of people, your first love, whatever it might be, usually doesn't work out.
Right.
It hasn't happened. It hasn't happened for me, and that's a whole nother story. Your first crush, your first
Side
relationship, your
T.
first boyfriend, whatever, it usually doesn't work out. Anyway, so yeah, so that is a really interesting point. That she was like your first love is also like a high, like you know nothing else
Right.
until it's
Right.
yeah,
You know no better.
right. Okay, so Nate,
No,
how
before
do you
we
feel
get to
about that?
Nate, we gotta talk about Cassie and
Okay.
Maddie. Because
I,
I really like that,
of course, you got to throw in Cassie
I
here.
have
Like you
listen,
always pause. You're like, wait, we got to talk about Cassie. Okay,
we all
all right. What do you
there's
think about
always time to talk about Cassie. Um I really like that
that?
scene where Cassie's like, Nate broke up with me even before like the play was over or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And Maddie's like, it's just the beginning or it's just a start. Like, they're kind of back to being friends. And I don't know if it's Maddie
Right.
accepting her defeat and her loss at this point, like knowing that Nate is toxic and knowing that Nate isn't the right person for her. I
Mhm.
wonder if it's all because in the last episode he came with a gun and threatened her.
Right.
But, is she giving in to this whole relationship with Cassie? Is she accepting it?
I
Is
think so.
she taking Cassie back as a friend? Like
Um, I don't know if she's taking her back as a friend, but I think she has come to accept that Nate is just absolutely 100% not for her.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all. That's all.
So
This is the
are we going to
Cassie
talk about Cassie
segment. This
then?
is we're done talking
Because
about
her hair
Cassie for
was
now.
fucked up. Like I felt bad for the girl. She was going through it this
Well,
episode.
I need to make an
Um,
observation. The entire time she was walking
okay.
down the ramp to the main stage, whoever was lighting her, big props to that person because she was in like the light was on her the entire time she was walking down. Like whoever was running down with that lighting source. That's it. That's it for the
Yeah,
Cassie
this
segment.
show this show is just so insanely creative.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I've ever seen anything where like a
No.
play plays out like a real life thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like still like breaks the fourth wall, whatever. Like it was just perfect.
And a
Yeah,
masterpiece inside of a masterpiece.
exactly,
Because
exactly, exactly.
you got to take into consideration that the entire show is good. I mean, it was,
Mhm,
and I think you actually talked about it on Twitter for a little bit, or you said something about how,
mhm,
season one didn't have a lot of people watching Euphoria. You and I got on the
mhm.
bandwagon from the start, but because we like 824,
Well, yeah, there was no bandwagon back then. Yeah,
right? It was just
yeah,
you and
yeah,
I.
yeah,
But because we
yeah.
like 824 and we watch
Yeah.
anything that
Oh, yeah.
comes out
So,
of 824.
so the Euphoria was actually advertised along with the finale of Game of Thrones. So if I had not watched the finale of Game of Thrones, then I would not have known about it. But as soon as I saw A24, as soon as I saw Zendaya and like teenagers struggling, I was like, all right, like
Relatable.
I'll tune in. Yeah.
Right,
But
right.
what were
So,
you saying?
um,
Mhm.
so we were talking. You had said, you made a comment about how season 1 didn't have a lot of fans, and now season 2, it's like everyone is talking about Euphoria, and
And I think it's not that good because it's become toxic.
I agree.
I think.
I agree. I agree. I agree. Everything
Mhm.
is a meme. Poor Cassie's all over the
Mhm.
place crying. I mean, she's all she does is cry. I think you
Yeah.
retweeted something about how why does she need a stunt double if all she does is cry and
Right. So
run? It's
I
true.
mean, there's like thousands and thousands of tweets just like that where people are just like hyper focusing on the most random stuff and like missing the point altogether. Yeah, so
And
unfortunately that's happened, but hey.
I also don't like what you said in the I think you said it in the beginning about how people don't think it's realistic. I don't think shows are ever that realistic if you think about
Of
it.
course not.
So if we're talking about Euphoria, just Euphoria, I mean, definitely not realistic at all. I mean, who the fuck has a play that's probably with a budget of what I'm gonna say 40 grand in a
Yes.
high school? Like that's not gonna happen anywhere. But okay, if we want to talk
Right.
about being, realistic or not, I mean, I think there are
Yeah.
some parts to it that are very realistic. I think, the
Yep.
relationship with Nate struggling with his dad, things like that. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. But I think most of it isn't, and I don't think it's meant to be. I think that's the
Yep.
beauty of it. And I think that's also the beauty of TV and movies. You get to escape from reality.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
So that was just a comment.
Um, so something that has kind of I think it kind of escaped me just now, but what I will mention is that some people think it's unrealistic, and in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, this show is trying to has thrown together like I think like 5 or 6 different storylines of people who
Mm-hmm.
are doing just like crazy shit, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, if we take, for example, Rue's story, and if we separate it from the show, and if we take Nate and his dad's story separate from the show, there are indie movies out there that are strictly about that.
Mm-hmm.
So those stories are already exist. I'm sure those stories people can relate to. Someone out in the world is observing it, and so the fact that this show threw them all together into one high school, that's not really the point. The point is
Right.
that there are people who experience these things and are going through it. And I think a lot of people. I've had a few of my friends actually mention that they can't relate to the show. And people on Twitter like they can't relate to this. And I don't think the show is necessarily meant to be relatable. I
Right.
think it's about like how does a drug addict teenager in high school how does she go through that? Like how does she function? How is that a thing? Because that
Right.
does exist.
Right.
Kids
Right.
drink early. I mean, yeah, like all this stuff, all that exists. So
Do we
I
not
think
see moms struggling with the health insurance and things like that? That's relatable. I mean, people struggle to with health insurances all the time. Like these are real
mhm,
things. I mean, and again, I don't think the show is meant to be relatable. I don't think that's what it's after. I don't think that's what it's trying to achieve. So those comments kind of bother me at some point because it's like
same. That irked me. I'm like, you're missing the point.
that's not what we're that's not what the show is after.
The
But
point of the
okay,
show.
you do you.
Right, right, right. So I think one of the final little storylines was Nate, and I'll
And
let
Cal.
you, Nate and Cal. Yeah, I'll let you give your opinions.
Um, I think I have mixed feelings about it.
Yeah.
I honestly I think that Nate is a selfish person, and I don't think he's doing this for the greater good or because. And I know that he's after revenge. I know he said that explicitly, but
Mhm.
if we think about it, his dad runs a business, and
Mhm.
they all depend on it. So I don't think he wants to see his dad's business go to shit. And therefore he has to kind of be the hero in order for him to take over. Because who's gonna want to deal with a pedophile? I don't think anybody's gonna want to deal with that. I think people are gonna start, distancing themselves from Cal and from the business. And even in the final episode, Cal is hanging out with people at one of the construction sites that his family or one of the homes that his family's building. So I don't know. For me, it's kind of like one of those things that Nate is trying to kind of throw him under the bus because he knows he's going to be the one that's going to take over. I don't think he wants his family business to go to
Interesting.
shit. And that
Interesting.
may be
Interesting.
reading too much into it, but
I think so.
hey, never
I
know.
mean, that's perfectly fine. Like that is actually a really interesting perspective. I hadn't thought about that. For
So he
me
has to be the
though,
hero. He has to be the hero at some point. Also,
for
wait,
me it
before
was.
before before you
Uh-huh.
continue, I'm sorry to interrupt, but when he talks about him dreaming about dad fucking him. How did you take that? Because for me, it feels like Cal did something to him.
I don't think he did.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that because Nate reveals that he has actually been exposed to his father's like homemade
Video.
porn that
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
father
Yeah.
with so many different like hookers and teenagers and all
Right.
this stuff. Um, so he reveals that from an early age, from age 13. And I remember back in season one, he was actually the show that he was like finding his father's stuff within his office, and he would throw it into the computer. So ultimately, when it's revealed, like it is thrown into the computer. So ultimately, it's revealed that Nate has thrown this entire goddamn lifetime of sex, of seeing his father fucking everyone around town
Right.
into this little USB drive, seeing that he basically wanted to kind of kill his dad,
Mm-hmm.
or he like I feel like being Nate who he is, that he would want to kill someone who has just caused him so much pain for probably his entire life.
Mm-hmm.
Like the reason Nate is fucked up is because of his dad.
Sure.
And so for him to not, I mean, I guess killing him would have been a little over the top, but for him to just kind of sit back and stay quiet, I think would have been a very Nate thing to do ultimately,
Right.
because that's who he is.
Right.
But for him to say, Dad, like again, actions have consequences. You have to suffer, or you have to pay for what you've done. Like you have raped minors, and we all, basically a lot of people in town already know about it, so it's not a secret anymore.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and there's video proof of it too. So that's how I saw that. So I perceived it as a little bit of a redeeming arc for Nate, because he finally does something. In my eyes, it was something selfless, because he wasn't thinking about his family business. He was thinking about setting the record straight.
Right, but he
Because
comes in and says that they get a lot of pleasure from hurting others. So he is hurting dad, of
right.
course. And for
Um.
me, it's one of those
Mhm,
things like the moment that he turns him in, that's the moment
mhm,
when he becomes a hero and no longer is part of. Yes, I think to a certain degree he is getting the revenge that he's seeking or that he wants, but
mhm,
I think a lot of it is the fact that, of course, there's other factors going into this and how what happens to the business, what happens to Nate Jacobs, as without that. But again, I may be
mhm.
reading too much into this whole thing
No,
and
no, no. Those are good points. I guess we'll find out.
season
And
three.
apparently, it's not coming out until 2024. So we have to wait 2 more fucking years. So basically, between episode one and
You fucking
excuse me, season one and season three, there's going to be what,
At that point I'm gonna
like
be over
5 years.
30. Like, what is this world coming to?
I'm going to be well into my 30s. Anyway, we both will definitely be sticking around for season three. We'll be there day one,
Yeah.
the time that it starts, because we just
Mm-hmm.
love this show. Okay, so final question, and it's a big question. After having seen the entirety of both season one and season two, which is your favorite? And of course, you can
Ooh.
change
Ooh,
it
that's
later
a
on.
really tough one because so I am gonna have to go with season one. And
Dude, yes.
the reason being because as much as season two is very good, it's good. It's a good season.
Mhm,
Season one had me glued to the TV because I didn't watch season one like on a weekly basis. I actually waited for the entire thing to finish, and then I watched Euphoria, and I think you actually watched it before I did.
I was watching it week.
You were
Mhm,
watching it weekly. I was glued. I remember
mhm,
I sat through 5 episodes and I did not get up. And season two is really good. I really enjoyed it. I like what they did, but I think I really liked the focus on Rue. I think now there's so many moving parts that it's easy to get lost. And don't get me wrong, I'm gonna bring up Cassie again. I love that Cassie's,
Of course, here we
you
go.
know,
Oops, sorry. Never an opportunity missed to talk about
when it comes to Cassie or Kristen Stewart, I can just plug them in anywhere. Um,
Yeah.
I really like that everyone gets a fair chance, but I don't know. I feel like season one was yeah. I'm just gonna go with season one. How
Yeah,
about
me
you?
too. And for me, the answer is simple. I enjoyed the finale of season one much better.
Okay,
This finale was really great. I think, like I said, I feel like the entire season was trying to make it like a drug, because the
sure.
beginning was insane, slowed down, and then everything comes to a head, and melancholic and all this stuff.
Sure, sure,
But
sure.
season one to me was just like very complete. Even though it was a cliffhanger at the very end,
Yep.
I watched that ending like 10 times, and that was like one of my favorite songs of the year. Like I love that song. So I don't know. I think season one overall feels more like a complete story. It has a good ending. It has I don't know. Season two, again, in my opinion, these are like top tier television, top tier HBO, top tier
Mm-hmm.
A24. So they are amazing. So it's difficult to say which one is better than the other. They're both fucking fantastic. But
HBO
if I
has
have
the best
to,
shows. I mean,
they really do. They really do. Hmm. Their little, however much they're charging out, $10 or $15, however much
it's
they're charging.
$15 now.
Well, they do have an ad-supported version that's $10.
Ain't nobody got
I,
time
I
for
didn't know.
ads.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Well, thank you for joining us. I know that we have had some struggles this season because we
Season.
were trying to upload weekly, but we have not been able to do that. But we have been able to upload. Basically, the finale was honestly 2 episodes long. It was 2 hours long because episode seven, and then this one was a continuation of episode seven. So in some ways, the finale
Okay.
was 2 hours long. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your final thoughts?
I can't wait for season 3. And I know that's unrealistic at this point because obviously it has to be filmed, it has to be written, all those things. But I honestly, it's such a good show that you just wish that there were 4 seasons out so that you could just binge watch all of them. But
And I wonder what they'll do next season. Like, I was shocked with this season.
me
I was
too.
not
Well,
all.
before we close out our discussion of Euphoria and the season finale, the first episode of this season just blew me away because I wasn't
Mhm.
expecting it to start the way it did. You know that I
Mhm.
mean, I it was like high paced. The first season was more so kind of slow, but at the same time interesting. There were a lot of
Mhm.
elements in Rue's life that you got to know. In this season, it's more so bam, 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 and you continue on. Like there's no stopping. Even the whole thing with Nate and Cassie, I would have never predicted that ever. I would have never predicted that. I thought that Nate and Maddie were going to continue on their toxic relationship and they were continue, doing what they did. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see what they do with season 3. I'm excited to see what how they develop, what the character development will look like in season 3 and all that. So
Yeah, as much as I love this season, I am also very glad that I don't have to be stressed the fuck out on Sunday evenings because this show has been just like so intense. Oh my
it has
gosh.
been, yeah, it has been.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Well, yeah, this is the end of season two of Euphoria. It's kind of sad all around because we were both
It
so
is.
excited about it. We'll see you guys in 2 fucking years for the next discussion of Euphoria. But in the meantime, we'll be making other
Yeah,
videos. We're
bookmark
gonna
our,
find,
our our YouTube channel
Mhm.
so that in 2 years you can come back and we can talk about
Yes,
season 3.
yeah, we're gonna try to find another show to kind of keep up with weekly. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, is that it?
I
Goodbye.
think that's it. I think thank you for tuning in. I mean, if you're watching this later time, thank you for watching until the very end. Let us know in the comments if you'd like to see more of this. If not, don't let us know. I mean,
Yeah. All right.